Am I wrong for telling my stepdaughter to go ask her real dad? Story. I married my wife Elise 12 years ago. She has a 16-year-old daughter, Aina, from her previous relationship, and we have a 7-year-old son as well. From pretty much the beginning of our relationship, Anna and I have never gotten along. I don't know how to emphasize that it is not because of a lack of trying. She just does not like me. When she was young, she was just scared of me and afraid I'd tear their family apart. Nowadays, it's more of a neutral dislike rather than strong antipathy, so I suppose that's progress. Elise is a stay-at-home mother, so she relies on me for income. As a result, I pay for everything for Anna: food, clothes, volleyball fees, field trips. I take an interest in her hobbies. I go to her games. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I try my damn hardest to be the stepfather I can. But it's so hard. Always giving me curt one-word responses. Always have to have an attitude. She does things to get a rise out of me. Staying out late reeking of booze. Always trying to sneak boys in. Typical rebellious stuff. But I always let her know I love her and I'm there for her in hopes of her craphead teenager phase pasts. The opposite is true for her biological father. She adores him. Can't tell you why. He never goes to her games and always makes excuses for why he doesn't want to see her. He forgot her birthday last month and she cried herself to sleep. Well, anyway, on Friday, I came to her room to check her phone and read her messages. Not a permanent thing, but she's been caught sneaking out twice in the last month, so this is her punishment. I ask for the phone. She says, "No, I'm tired of you checking my crap. Leave me alone." I tell her I'm not asking again, and she goes, "Just F off already. You're not my real dad. You never have been. Stop acting like you can tell me what to do," before getting up and slamming the door. Like I said, guys, I'm tired. Tired of the blatant disrespect, of being the verbal punching bag while still providing more for her than anyone else in her family. We haven't really talked since until this morning during breakfast. She asked if I could pay for her plane tickets so she could see her boyfriend cross state. Like I said, her mom doesn't work and her dad is a POS, so I normally would be the one to cough up the money. Not this time. I responded, "Go ask your real dad." I could tell she was hurt. Tears swelled up from her face, and she excused herself from the table. My wife took me aside later and said my comment was extremely disrespectful. I said if anything's disrespectful, it's her treating me like a doormat and a credit card, and I will no longer tolerate this treatment in my house. I told her we don't have to be friends, but if she can at least be cordial to me or respect my position as an authority figure, she can find someone else to pay for her non-essentials. Was I the bad guy here? Response 1. Not the a-hole, but you barely mentioned your wife, her mother. Why is she not handling this with her daughter? You've been in her daughter's life since she was 4, as stepdad, and your wife has continued to let this fester? She's continued to let her daughter disrespect you and continued to mislead her about her father's true character. This is all kinds of wrong. Reply 1. She's tried, but to be honest, she's not great at this type of stuff. She's a wonderful mom, but tends to just excuse the rebellious behavior with a, "She'll grow out of it." And like I said, Anna has been making progress. Reply 2. I think it's less she's not good at it and more that she bought into the myth that never being honest about a divorced spouse's true character somehow protects the child. Anna was allowed to continue with an unrealistic and incorrect image of her father. This just delayed reality for her to an age where she's ruled by emotions and hormones. Your wife is doing you both an injustice and needs to play a larger role here. She can't criticize you when she's not doing her part. She can't opt out of disciplining or teaching or guiding her child. That is the foundation of being a good mom. Reply 3. I always try to speak either positively or neutrally about my ex in front of our son. I hope he does the same for me. Hearing my parents voice their hate for each other always felt like they hated a part of me, if that makes sense. I told my mother that when I became a parent myself and she started to cry, I wish I'd had the words to tell her sooner. Reply 4. There's a difference between being neutral and letting a child have false hope. You're absolutely right about that. I'm not condoning negativity, but delaying the truth isn't always the best idea. Reply 5. If her bio dad is skipping out on everything in her life and she's crying her eyes out because of it, what truth is left to tell her? Maybe she can be an example to others of why you don't hide/deflect the truth when a child is young. But being an example doesn't really help her or her family. I know get therapy is a common refrain here, but considering no one in this family seems equipped to handle one another, they have to change something somehow to make it work and agree on doing so too. I'm not sure what the alternative is. Reply 6. Children often take their parents' lack of caring or effort in these scenarios as a fault of their own. If only I weren't such a crappy kid, then maybe daddy would want to spend time with me. Maybe if I were more interesting, he'd come to my gay game. This is why sometimes the good parent needs to reaffirm that it isn't their fault and that the other parent isn't treating them fair at all. It's tough to not cross into smack-talking territory, but when you've got an emotionally wrecked child, it might be necessary to kindly let them know that mommy-daddy is kind of a jackass. Response 2. Not the a-hole. Maybe your daughter can have a first-hand look at how much words can hurt. I think you should go to her, apologize, never mind the fact she doesn't deserve it. You're the adult, be the bigger person, and set firm, fair, and strict rules about behavior going forward. Tell her what you told us, that you don't have to be friends, but you need her to respect your authority and at least be cordial to each other. Maybe ask her why she doesn't like you. Ask if there's anything you can do to support her better. And most importantly, remind her that you love her and will be there for her. Teenage girls are hard men. Keep trying. A decade from now, she'll be grateful that you chose the high road. Reply 1. Please consider that because her father is an unreliable, unaccountable, and disinterested person, she cannot rebel against him. She is rebelling against you 2x. She is terribly hurt by his behavior, but very likely she has tried to demand his attention before, and he may have punished her emotionally for it. She has major abandonment issues with him. She wants him to care that she's behaving badly and rebelling. He doesn't though, right? She is mad that you are the reliable father figure she doesn't want you to be. She resents that you hold her accountable and not her actual father, but she also feels safe to be angry with you. I think your acceptance of not being her father and speaking it out loud was a rejection. I don't believe that you meant to reject her, but lashed out. Please be her safe place. I think she needs to know that you're not dumping her. You don't have to buy a plane ticket for an a-hole teenager, but this isn't about your money. It's about her making you prove time and again for 12 years that you care. I would bet if you tracked every instance of acting out and rebelling, you would find a specific trigger from her dad, times she wanted him to be the father figure that he didn't show up. The end result is always being F my dad and F his crappy replacement too. Not that you're crappy, but when her basic needs to be loved weren't met by him, you're guilty by proxy of being an unwanted father figure. Response 3. Everyone sucks here. She's the bratty teenager, not you. Also, please for the love of God, don't look through your teens' phones. That's not going to help crap. They're just going to get better and better at hiding things from you. Reply 1. We only did it as punishment. She snuck out twice. The first time we said, if you keep doing this type of behavior, we'll take your phone and make sure you won't again. After a week, we resolved to just read through her phone every now and again, rather than take it indefinitely. Thank you for your judgment. Reply 2, I have to go with, everyone sucks here. I completely understand your frustration and frankly not buying her things, especially a plane ticket. WTF is a good punishment for her acting out, but words can hurt both ways too, and words have consequences for you too. It would have been a hell of a lot more productive for you to have said no, because what you said last night really hurt me, instead of hurting her back. Teenagers get to say, I hate you, and parents have to explain why it's hurtful and not okay. Parents don't get to say, I hate you back. Also, you've been married for 16 years to your wife who is sawhole for your son and stepdaughter. It's high time you stop referring to it as your singular money and start referring to it as your plural money. Reply 3, 100% this. OP is unintentionally, for the most part, setting himself up to be hated by his stepdaughter. Having his wife be a stay-at-home mom, but then referring to it as just his money when the daughter wants something? Sweet Jesus. OP, whether you mean to or not, you're making this girl, who is in fact still a child with a child's brain, feel like an outsider in her own family. Of course, she's going to lash out at you, and you have to remember, you have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. She does not. She's going to say things that suck, and your actions, including any punishments, should be designed to teach her not to get revenge. And you know your "not your real dad" comment was meant as revenge. Teenagers suck, dude. That doesn't mean you have to suck back as a grown man. Everyone sucks here, but the other person is not an adult, so you suck slightly more. Reply 4. Pretty sad that I had to read this far down and into the replies to find this, especially since this girl has been in OP's life since she was 4, and he and his wife still haven't really dealt with her feelings of resentment and abandonment. I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't the first time OP acted immaturely and hurtfully in response to crappy child things, which are still crappy. But when you take on the responsibility of parenthood, you sign up for this, and you recognize that your responses have a much greater impact on your child than their actions towards you. But OP clearly hasn't internalized this, because he says stuff in his post like that. His stepdaughter is going out drinking at night to get a rise out of him, as if she's not dealing, in an admittedly unhealthy way, with a lot of complicated and difficult feelings. Response 4. I just want to give a slightly different perspective. When my parents divorced, I adored Dad and was mad at Mom. But you know what? I did not dare be angry at my dad. He might go away, and I will never see him again. I trusted my mom enough to dare to be angry. I knew she would not abandon me. But I agree that the stepdaughter needs to be respectful, but she might like you more than you think. Response 5. Not the a-hole. Where is your wife in all this? Why the hell is she letting her daughter treat you like this? Reply 1. I used 2950 out of the 3,000 allowed word limit. Didn't have space for extraneous details. But she does call her out when she says something disrespectful, tells her to be grateful, etc. But there's only so much a parent can do when the child has no interest in engaging cordially. Reply 2. That actually sounds like a terrible strategy. Have you been to family counseling or any kind of support that can help blended families? I'm not condoning her awful behavior towards you, but reacting with punishment and telling her to be grateful are sure ways to make her resent you instead of helping with your relationship. Reply 3. Yeah. C. I understand your reticence to delve into all that, and I'm sure your wife has many good qualities, but her role here is not optional. She is the most important influencer in your house. I have 3 stepdaughters, lucky me, and understand the tightrope, but also understand that it's extremely hurtful and corrosive to live with a child who holds such animus toward you or reflects it onto you, and it's entirely fair to expect civility from the people you care for, and it's critical to have your spouse managing the tone of your household as it pertains to kids who are biologically theirs. It's not easy, but you can't opt out of it or sideline it. I'll repeat, it's corrosive, and I'm pretty surprised your wife would tolerate it and expect you to be the Adam and the saint at the same time. That's a pretty big ask. Have you considered family therapy? Also, I think you were perfectly reasonable, and it was probably long overdue. However, I would not, were I you, ever be the person who is checking her cell phone or whatever that nonsense is. That's cloud cuckoo land. You should not be doing that kind of parenting with a child who already resents you. That will only ramp things up exponentially. Get the hell out of that business. Tout sweet, mom can do that. Response 6. Everyone sucks here. You're acting like a child to get back at a child. Her mother should have stepped in a long time ago. You need family counseling and individual counseling ASAP. Reply 1. She's 16, hardly a child, and fully understands what she's doing. Reply 2. At 16, she's old enough to be understanding the consequences of her actions, but that doesn't mean she fully understands what she's doing. Teenagers' brains are far from fully developed, and they're a mess of hormones. Sounds like she's really suffering from the end of her parents' relationship and taking it out on her stepfather. Reply 3. Your experience as a 16-year-old does not dictate the world. Her parents have gone through a divorce, her biological father is not present in her life, and she is obviously struggling. I'm not saying you haven't gone through the same thing, but people act differently in these situations. Reply 4. And drinking. She's also drinking at 16, which can drastically alter brain chemicals in young kids. Not only that, but I'm blown away by how many mature former 16-year-olds are here. I can definitely say I was not one of them, and I also started drinking way before that. I had little to no impulse control, and on top of that, I felt so burned by the world and things that had happened to me that were out of my control that I was too blind to see future consequences or hurt I was inflicting. Honestly, give the kid, yes kid because she's a kid, a break. Of course, she's an a-hole because that's an a-hole comment. But does she really understand it? No. Response 7. Everyone sucks here. Elise sucks for not dealing with this budding problem 12 years ago. Anna sucks for not appreciating the material things you provide. You suck for stooping to Anna's level and claiming to not understand why she feels a connection to her biological father. I also take issue with you going through her phone. If you are genuinely concerned for her physical safety, talk it over with Elise and let Elise make the call. I think there are very few circumstances that justify violating someone's privacy, and from what you've written here, it was more of a power move than anything else. Reply 1. Elise and I have talked it over, and we both agreed that considering she keeps planning to sneak out, go to God knows where, in the middle of a pandemic, and come back blackout drunk, taking her phone was the best approach. Perhaps reading these comments, though, that maybe it wasn't. Reply 2, I in no way support a teenager sneaking out and getting drunk, but I'm not clear on how going through her phone will prevent her from sneaking out. The only things I can think of are checking on her frequently at night or moving her room to a more easily monitored place. Because things are already so tense between you and Anna, why isn't Elise the one to go through her phone? It just seems like throwing gasoline on a fire that you're the one to do it. Response 8, not the a-hole. You're not a punching bag. Your wife should be on your side. Reply 1. We're normally pretty much on the same page. Just at the time, she said I was being juvenile. In her defense, she didn't know Anna made the "you're not my dad" comment until after she confronted me. Reply 2. What did she say when she found out? Reply 3. That it was still a juvenile comment and I shouldn't stoop to her level because she's just a teenager. Reply 4, I hate the "just a teenager" comment. In 2 years, she'll magically change into an adult. There's only so much a parent can do when the child has no interest in engaging cordially. There's a difference between engaging cordially and not showing basic respect. Like you said, you are not a credit card. If she doesn't want to have a relationship with you, that's her decision, but she has to treat you like a human being. Heck, my dad and I don't really have a relationship. We get together maybe once or twice a year for a meal, and he calls me every 2 or 3 months to say hi, but I'm still nice to him and appreciate what he did for me because I'm on my own and he doesn't pay for anything for me anymore. His wife, not my mom, I dislike even more and have blocked her on Facebook. She has had me blocked for almost 2 years, but I still will invite her to come visit when my dad comes to see his grandson. I can be nice to her for a meal and a bit because it's the nice human thing to do. I was also an ungrateful teenager. They got married when I was 16. I didn't go to their wedding, and she at one point told me it was rude to correct someone who referred her to my mom by mistake. My mom died when I was 13, which I still stand by. But there's a difference between correcting someone who made an assumption and saying it disrespectful to her, which I have never done. Response 9. Everyone sucks here, and you more, because you're the adult in this situation. The way you describe your relationship with your daughter reveals a lot. You say she does things like staying out late, drinking, and sneaking boys in the house to get a rise out of you. Her own birth father forgot her birthday last month, and she cried herself to sleep over it. But you only describe this as evidence that she cares about him more than you. You describe her feelings towards you when she was 4 years old, barely verbal, and her feelings now in the same sentence, as if she's been an adult fully capable of understanding the world for that entire time. You clearly care for her a lot, but you've allowed your pain to cloud your judgment of her character and behavior. She is a child. She is staying out late and drinking because she has no idea how to process her feelings of abandonment, of being an outsider in her own family. She is crying herself to sleep because she feels utterly unloved and unlovable. She is lashing out at you because she feels like you're only there for her because it's a requirement of being with her mother. Of course, these things all hurt. Of course, it hurts to be treated with contempt for years when you keep trying to help. But somehow, your family has failed to deal with these insecurities, and now they've ballooned into a real problem that could cause long-term harm. Your hurt is secondary to that issue. So you have to be bigger than her. Your wife is right. Don't stoop to her level, and don't let yourself think that she's doing these things at you purely because she dislikes you. Try to look at this situation calmly and with empathy. Get her into therapy and get into therapy yourselves. Apologize to her, not because you think what she did was okay, but because no one should ever treat her like that. Also, I hope you're not talking about money with your family the way you talk about it in this post. Just because your wife is a stay-at-home mom does not mean she is not contributing to the household. It's not your money, it's the family's money. So when you cough up the money for her expenses, it's the whole family doing that, not you. Not saying you should pay for the plane ticket, quite the opposite actually. I think it's a huge ask and possibly a dangerous one, but that you should treat it as asking the whole family for money, not just you as the provider. Reply 1. This should be so much higher. Not enough people seem to have quite digested the wrongness of "she hated me when she was 4 and has never liked me since." Like, she was 4, my dude. Her family life and sense of stability got upended, and it sounds kinda like OP immediately read that as "my new wife's kid hates me," rather than "this poor kiddo needs support and love. How can I be a good father figure?" And the way he is talking about how he pays for everything, so she should respect him as a father is gross. It sounds like he resents her for not automatically bonding bonding with him because he's the breadwinner. Kids don't think like that. Anyways, thanks for actually thinking about the child in this situation. Lots of other commenters are being really brutal and missing some huge red flags. Response 10. You're the a-hole. Dude, you've been her father figure for 12 years now. 12 years. That's over 50% of her life. Yeah, maybe she has her issues about her real father not being about. Can you blame her? It's an awful thing, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. The incident you described, dude, you're reading through a 16-year-old's phone. What do you expect? You're not giving her any privacy. I'd be surprised if a 16-year-old didn't lash out like that. Talk to her, voice your concerns, and be real about it. Don't pull the, I keep food on the table, you listen to me. Response 11. Well, I mean, 16 years old is plenty old enough to know that actions have consequences, and so do words. The whole reading through her phone thing kind of makes you an a-hole. What you said to her, I'm gonna say not the a-hole. I would try to sit down and have a talk with her again and explain exactly what you just explained here and see if she realizes how she has been acting. Reply 1. Reading through her phone because she can't be trusted makes him an a-hole? I don't think so. When teenagers are sneaky, they need to be monitored. That's just how it is. I'm sure he doesn't do it constantly, like every single day, and once he stops finding things, he'll give it a rest. Reply 2. He, as the stepfather, shouldn't be the one monitoring her communications. She's gonna resent him for that forever, in a way she wouldn't resent a bio-parent. He needs to step back and let his wife step up as the parent. It's called disengaging, and it can save a step-parent's sanity and relationships with their partner and stepkids. Source: I had a stepfather in my life from age 7 on and am a step-parent. Response 12. Here's what I know about teenage girls, both working with them and having a teenage stepdaughter, and by once being one myself. She is treating you like her real dad. The crappy behavior, the disrespect, the insistence that you get out of her life but leave your wallet behind. It is normal behavior for teenagers and their fathers. It's crappy, and we discipline it away eventually, but it is normal. Her so-called real dad, she knows he is a poor bet. That's why he gets the best of her. She has to give him her best, because he won't stick around otherwise. You get everything crappy because actually she trusts you. She sees you as the father who can handle everything. Her bio dad is just Uncle Daddy. You can fix this. You explain to her that you love her, that she is your daughter, but you're tired of feeling like an ATM. Lay some guilt on, apologize, and also expect an apology and improvement in behavior. Response 13. Everyone sucks here. You, not for not paying for the airline ticket, but for how you handled it. You should have just said no. Your wife for allowing the teen's bad behavior and attitude, and her bio dad for not being very involved. And yes, the teen is wrong for her behavior and attitude. Yes, you can't expect perfection from a teenager, but she's old enough to know that she should behave better and try to do better. The family should see a family counselor to improve the situation. Reply 1. I get you. Perhaps I should have. It was the heat of the moment. I thought I could use her words against me. Maybe that was wrong of me. I already plan on apologizing. Reply 2. You know, it was not so bad that you did that. It is an important lesson for her to learn that you, as a human being, also have feelings, and she hurt them. That's an important lesson. She should not be able to talk to you like that. Set the parameters of her relationship with you and expect you to have no boundaries. I know you are more her father than her sperm donor. You know that. She also knows that. She's acting out because her own father hurts her. So she's hurting you because she knows you will take it and not abandon her. It's messed up, but she really does not know what to do with that pain. You just taught her that this is the wrong thing to do with her pain. That's not a bad thing. You had a very human reaction in the heat of the moment. Apologizing to her teaches another invaluable lesson. Not the a-hole. You're a really good father. I am betting she'll realize what she had in you someday. Probably around age 25. Update by OP. Hey guys, so after all that, I have an update. A lot has happened since I told the story. So that night, I did what many of the comments suggested I do, which was to apologize. I told her that I'm sorry for implying that I'm not her real father, but like it or not, I consider her my daughter, that I loved her and will always be there for her. She started to cry and sob uncontrollably and said, "Why doesn't he, her biological father, love me?" I held her and told her she didn't need to fight for his approval. I also apologized for looking through her phone. I've come to accept that it's not an appropriate punishment for a teenage girl, and I was going to find other alternatives. Lastly, I brought up therapy, and while she was hesitant at first, I let her know it was nothing to be ashamed of, that everything she said at therapy would be entirely confidential, and that it could help to have a confidant to help her sort through her feelings. She sat on this for the day, but the next day let me know that she was ready, so I set up the soonest appointment, which was last Friday, and her second appointment this afternoon. It's only been a week, so I don't want to get too optimistic, but honestly, I feel like I'm noticing an improvement already. She's actually been engaging back in small talk when normally she wouldn't give me the time of day. She's been following all of the rules, coming home at a reasonable hour. She's been less withdrawn and more social, even to the point where her brother commented on the change today. But the most exciting news of them all is when getting out of the car on her way home from therapy, she said, and I quote, "Thanks, Dad." She's never called me Dad before, so honestly, I've been riding off that high for the last 2 hours. I'm not delusional enough to think everything's peachy, but honestly, the behavior change in the last week was the most progress we've had since, well, ever. I'm cautiously optimistic going forward. Thanks again, everyone, for your comments, especially the ones who gave me the kick in the ass I needed.